I am so excited for this episode. I feel like it's going to go all over the place. So we can get some context. Can you each introduce yourself and talk on how you know each other and how you're involved together?
Yeah, Dendy, you want to go first?
Sure. I am Dendy Engleman. I'm a dermatologist in New York City, and I have specialized in lasers and aesthetics and skin cancer surgery. And I recently joined a plastic surgery colleague of mine named David Schaefer, and I work at Schaefer Clinic on 5th Avenue and 44th. And I'm so happy. We have like 3 stories of so many beauty tools, and we have the OR in our office, so we can do everything in-house. And I just started September 22nd, so it's very recent, but I'm very happy.
So you're back in office now?
Yep.
With everything with COVID, you had to stop?
I didn't see patients for 6 weeks, but I started back April 30th.
Amazing.
But I imagine with what you do, like you've probably seen an uptick in patients wanting to come and see you.
Wild.
Yeah.
I mean, like can't even get them all in.
Wow.
And I think that's multifactorial, right? We've been working from home, the video conferencing, you're inundated by like your own image all the time. People in selfies know their angle, right? But when you're dynamic and moving and you're like, Jesus, I didn't know that I had that extra chin, or my jaw sucks, or whatever. And so there's that. And then we're not traveling, we're not going out as much. So people have more money to spend.
And time to recover, right? Time to
Yeah,
recover
and
at home.
I mean, it's a great time to be recovering from something. That's what
I
I
know.
say.
I should just go get a mommy makeover now. I'm going to wait till I'm done with my kids, though. I told you.
The swan.
Yeah, I'm going to do a full-on fucking swan. Like, walking down the runway, I want Michael to do a huge reveal. I want balloons. I want everything.
You're easy because you started at 9.9, just move you to a 10.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, Eric, give us context. Who are you?
Okay, well, I'm Eric Neher, and I'm the head of marketing for Canopy. And I have spent the last decade or so doing marketing, business development for various beauty brands. I got into beauty in an interesting way. I always wanted to be an actor, and I went to school to like sing and dance and be in musical theater. Then when I realized that like I was going to have no control over that and it wasn't going to make me any money, I decided I wanted to switch, but I didn't know what I would do. So the last like survival job I had just to pay the bills, my friend who we've always helped each other get jobs and figure out how to live life, she said, I could get you a job selling lipstick. And it was for this brand called Lipstick Queen. That's Poppy King. She's this really cool Australian lady. She was my first boss, and she knows everything about lip colors. And so in Barney's and Henry Bendel's, et cetera, I sold lipsticks and lip glosses on the selling floor in those stores, which don't even exist anymore, which is crazy. But that's how I learned about the beauty customer, which is like super fascinating for me. So I moved into a couple of different roles. I worked at Birchbox for the majority of my career, and getting samples out to millions of people every month, which was like an incredible experience. I also launched a private label beauty brand for Walmart, and then earlier this year I was introduced to the team that ultimately we all went on to launch Canopy last month, and that's what I've been doing since then.
Humidifiers.
Yeah.
I have been wanting to do an episode, and I've done like 20 blog posts on this already on why I personally am such a huge fan of humidifiers, which is why I'm so intrigued with this product. And we wanted to bring on someone who was a part of our favorite humidifier company and also someone who had the expertise of a doctor. Like I always say I want to do something that's like a medley. Like we want to talk about it. We want to talk to someone who's the expert, and then we want to talk about, the marketing side. So first off, why does everyone need a humidifier in their house?
I'll start. So as a dermatologist, I get people all the time who are like, my skin's so dry, or I've got like dry scalp, and what do I do? And so I often will say, well, do you have a humidifier? And they'll say, yeah. And I'm like, do you use it? And they're like, no. And why is that, right? We invest in something and then we don't use it. And the reason is that they're gross. They get moldy. When I first started having babies, you always put one on the registry and it looks like a teardrop or an elephant or something. And then my husband and I would literally like fight over who was going to have to clean it every week with like the Q-tips and the vinegar, and it's just gross. And eventually you're like, this is not worth the investment. And ironically, my son has eczema as a son of a dermatologist. And so we need to increase the ambient humidity in his room, but it was just such a pain. And so now the Canopy guys have like solved for all of those reasons why you don't use it by making it super easy to clean, and it doesn't grow mold and fungus and all that stuff that can be aerosolized. And there are real studies that support that when we're in the optimal humidity zone of 40 to 60% humidity in the environment, our skin is better. It's more hydrated. The barrier function of the skin, keeping bad stuff out and good stuff in is enhanced. It helps with sensitivities, dryness, redness, fine lines, wrinkles. And there are studies that show, there's one through the Skin Health Alliance out of the UK that shows within 30 minutes of being in a less optimized environment of humidity, your skin starts to show breakdown. And so it's really important. And then if we think about COVID and overall wellness, the CDC has said if you're in more arid humidity climates, you are 5 times as likely to be infected by the influenza virus. So the reasons for that are twofold. One, if you have more humidity in the air, when you speak or cough or sneeze, the water that's in the air, in the environment, actually binds to the viral particles and makes them heavier. So they kind of are taken out of circulation, so you can't inhale them. And the other is that you have more moisture, and so you don't have dryness and cracking and fissuring of your mucous membranes, like the lining of your nose. Because if that gets cracked and you have small portals of entry, then you're more prone to sickness. And so, you know, it's timely. No one thought we'd be in the middle of a pandemic when this launched, but it's really great not only for skin health, but for overall body health.
I first found out about humidifiers when my sister Mimi went to Korea. And I feel like Koreans are so on the pulse and avant-garde when it comes to skin. And I was in Palm Springs with my husband, and she's like, you need a humidifier by your bed. It's so dry here. And I was like, this isn't going to make that big of a difference. And she let me borrow hers for a night, and we were both hooked.
She never gave it back.
Never gave it back. What are some, I know you mentioned skin benefits, but what are some really micro benefits? Like, does it clear your acne? Like, get really specific with the skin side.
Yeah, I would say that it's probably best for if you have underlying like sensitivities, rosacea, eczema, dryness. And as we age, we inherently lose moisture in our skin. Our sebaceous glands aren't as active, and they don't put out as much oil as they used to. So anyone who's concerned about the aging effects of skin should certainly have their humidifier running at night. I have one at work. I run all the time, and I have one right by my bed. And I will say that I sleep better. And you think about how that permeates all aspects of life.
Sure.
And I breathe better, like from people who have chronic sinusitis or congestion or wake up and they're just like kind of groggy. I definitely think that it's an improvement in overall quality of life. And I had run out because I obviously had one of the first prototypes, and I didn't have a filter, and I wasn't able to use it for 2 weeks, and I could tell the difference even with my scalp. Oftentimes, I know it's warm here, but in New York it's quite cold, and in change of season I would get like dry scalp, and I haven't had that because I've been using the humidifier since August. So there's all kinds of benefits, not only face but hair health and scalp health.
I want to ask you, because I think a lot of people don't, like they may have a humidifier at home, like, oh, I'm already good. But the reason we love this one so much is you talked about mold. I think a lot of people don't even realize that their humidifiers are producing mold, right? They're like, a lot of the people that have it are probably sitting there thinking like, wait a minute, I need to clean this thing.
That's what happened. Our big one got mold. It was so gross.
Yeah, and I think like people don't realize that they need to think about that with their humidifier,
yeah,
right?
you may be actually aerosolizing particles that then you're inhaling, and that can cause all kinds of stuff. Exacerbation of asthma. It can, cause reactive airway where your airways are spasming. So heaven forbid you're trying to do something that's good, but it's actually detrimental to your health. That's the worst case scenario. So that's why I love, like, there's no mold that grows. They have a paper filter. You can throw all this in the dishwasher. Like, how easy is that?
What we found when we were talking to people about humidifiers, and I never dreamed I would talk to so many people about their humidifier, but now I've talked to so many people. What we found was that people were going, like the really committed people like you, Lauryn, were going to such great lengths to clean this thing, like a half an hour every Sunday or something like that.
Oh,
like,
no, I'm not like that. I'm not cleaning shit like
Lauryn was-
that. No. I haven't cleaned mine since 1992.
Lauren
But-
was going to no lengths.
No.
to clean it.
Mine has mold in it, and I probably like gave Michael some disease or something.
Well, it's a good thing you have Canopy now, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. But we found that people said they were using vinegar to clean it. They were using Q-tips to clean it. And you look at these things and it's like, who thought up the shape of the part?
Right.
You know, who thought up the shape of the part? It's the most difficult to clean thing you've ever seen. And so, just in creating a feature set for this product that was going to alleviate those things, like the reactions that was elicited as we talked to people about their humidifiers, people are like passionate about it. The same way, Dendy, you said like that your husband and you used to fight about who was going to clean it. It's a real thing.
It was a chore.
Yeah. So we found that, this mold growth was a huge thing to address. And so we have a proprietary technology that we developed all ourselves that prevents mold from growing inside the humidifier. Do you want me to tell you about how that works? So
Tell us it all.
yeah, so it's actually
Gross everyone out.
it's really cool. Well, so the reason why mold is going to grow inside a humidifier is because of standing water left behind. That's like where mold can grow. And when you see a typical humidifier, most people are familiar with what's called an ultrasonic humidifier. It has mist coming out the top of it. You see that like chimney of steam coming out. And the ultrasonic humidifier has an element that helps it work that will break if it's completely dry inside. So those humidifiers are created to stop running when there's still a little bit of water inside to stop it from breaking. And we flip that completely on its head. Canopy has smart persistent airflow, which we call SPA, which is, the fun acronym for it. And basically what that means is that it's going to keep on running until it's absolutely bone dry inside and there's no water left inside. No water left inside means that mold can't grow there. And it actually keeps running like against your will as a user in certain cases, because if you were to push the button and turn Canopy completely off and there was still water left inside, 30 minutes later, Canopy would turn back on so that it could keep running and dry out completely inside. Or I tell people like, first of all, it's really energy efficient. It's 5 times more energy efficient than like your average humidifier. And it's a USB power source. So, it's like in the modern age as opposed to what a lot of what you see out there. And so you can run it. Like I tell people, if you're going to go away for a week and you just leave Canopy on when you leave, that's actually kind of the best thing you could do, because what's going to happen is it'll run and run and run until it's completely dry inside. And then it'll shut off. You come home and you refill the tank. And as soon as it senses water again, it's actually going to turn right back on the setting that you left it at. So it's really thinking about how to be like completely hands off for you. You don't really have to do anything.
Let's talk about how you guys disrupted the space. So we had Sean Neff on, who is known as the brand whisperer. And he talks about how he would go to Rite Aid and he would walk down all the aisles and see what needed an update. So he went down one day, the toothpaste aisle, and saw that there was no cute toothpaste. Everything's disgusting. We all want it in our drawer. If you're Taylor, you want it like underneath your bed because it's probably like has mold on it. Like it's just like it needed like a freshen up. So he started Moon. And with you guys, I feel like you did the same thing. You said earlier, why is it shaped like this? Why does it look like this? And you guys started asking these questions that no one else was asking. Why is there mold? And you disrupted the space.
Why are these things so big? That was the other thing.
Why are these things so big? So can you speak on like the pain points? I know you did a little bit, but a little bit more the pain points that you saw and why you chose to disrupt this space.
Yeah, so it's interesting. There are pain points from like a few different perspectives that I think about. There are the pain points from just a functionality perspective. So I talked about mold, and that's a huge one. Lauryn, you and Michael, you both said they're so ugly, they're bulky, they don't look cute, And so that's a huge pain point that people talk about. The difficult to maintain and taking a lot of time to clean and maintain, that's another one. And also the potential for it to be like unhealthy and dirty. I think some people are attuned to that, Lauryn, but not all, right? So those were the sort of pain points that we thought about. And, we really just went down that list, kind of like exactly like you said, Lauryn, and thought about all the things that we could do to make this the easiest and the best. So we already talked about SPA, which keeps the mold from growing. I talked a little bit about the user interface that is really intuitive and actually kind of thinks for you. So we have an auto mode where you can set it manually to low, medium, or high. But what auto mode does is it actually responds to the amount of light in the room. And so we know that overnight, and Dendy, you know better, way better than I do, but overnight you're going to lose a lot more water because of just normal overnight water loss. And also you're not drinking any water, you're not eating anything that's going to hydrate you. So when it's dark in the room, Canopy will kick up to a higher setting so that you get more moisture while you're sleeping. Then when it's light in the room like it is right now, it assumes that either you're out, like normal circumstances we would be out of our houses, right? Or you're awake and you're like drinking green juice and you're eating stuff that's giving you hydration. And so Canopy actually kicks down when the lights are on, so that it saves water and can actually this small tank can run a lot longer for you. That was another thing you said, Michael. They're so big. We knew we needed to make it compact and also look really, really beautiful on somebody's nightstand. We talked to people who said that they're always trying to find a place to hide this, like hide a humidifier, put it like in the corner of the room where you don't have to see it. We wanted to flip that whole thing and make this a really covetable thing that people use for beauty and wellness and that they're really proud to have on their nightstand. Then one other thing that we thought about was People are also using aroma diffusers a lot. That's like really big in self-care and wellness.
This is what I'm obsessed with because you guys did it into one.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you don't have to have two huge lumbering things.
Lauren's got like 18 gadgets in the room, so it's like we gotta.
I'm like, I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty. I'm totally Little Mermaid. So talk to us about, you were going to speak on it, but just the diffuser part is so important to someone like me.
Yeah, totally. So actually the same science that's behind like the misting humidifier, that it's actually just spitting whatever is in that water that's in your tank. That could be metals, it could be mold, it could be bacteria. It's just spitting that out into the air. So those particles are actually coming out into the air. You could breathe them in or they could land on your skin. So part of what Canopy does is it's evaporative technology. There's a filter inside Canopy, a paper filter. And so all of that nasty stuff that's in the water is actually being caught on the filter before anything comes out of Canopy. So I should say one big thing, we are anti-mist in the humidifier world. We are the anti-mist movement. Like, that's what we're doing. You shouldn't want to see mist coming out of your humidifier, because if you do, chances are there's something in it that you don't want in your air. So the filter is going to catch all that stuff. It's totally invisible. You won't see anything coming out, but it's working, and you should know that it's doing great stuff for your skin and for your health. But to go back to the aroma diffusion, same thing goes for those aroma diffusers that everybody's like using now. Everybody puts essential oils in the water and you have the aroma coming out. It's like nice, it helps you go to sleep, whatever. But you could be getting nasty stuff that's in the water. Also essential oils, if you add that in, we know people are sensitive
slowly
to that.
fucking poisoning.
What the hell have you been giving me these?
Slow poison. It reminds me of that movie where it's a slow little tiny poison.
I'm actually
Get your
nervous
daily
now.
dose of mercury.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, not just a daily. I'm probably getting like 15 doses of more than normal, because she's got these things all over the place.
Yeah,
Not anymore,
sorry,
I'm
I don't
throwing
mean
them all
to. I don't mean to turn your whole household plan
No,
on
this
its
is
head.
efficient.
Yeah.
It puts it all in one.
Right. So we did aroma diffusion with this too, and it's a really cool way to do it. There's actually a ceramic puck that just goes right on the top grade of Canopy, and we give you when you order, we give you a little aroma kit that you can like start getting going with, and you put the little ceramic puck on top, and you just drop the oils onto the top of the puck, and the oil actually just evaporates naturally. It's
But
just
anyone
like
can
leaving.
use any oil they want, like with the puck.
Totally, yeah. You could use any oil you want, and we actually have a great brand that we work with that's providing the oils for the kits we're giving people. But yeah, it's like whatever aroma you like or however you like to use that, just do it with Canopy, and you don't have to think about the other device.
That is amazing.
We have one at the office, and every time patients come in, they're like, "It smells amazing in here," and I'm like, "Thank you." It's really nice, and it's just
I love
subtle,
it.
not overdone. And people, everyone wants to lean into essential oils because they think that they're natural and they're great for you. They can be quite caustic, either to the skin or to the airway, and a lot of people get reactions from them. So you want it to be formulated specifically in a proper way, so that you're not actually ingesting some of these oils that may not be good for you.
I also heard that with babies and dogs, that there's certain oils, like if you're burning oils or diffusing them or whatever at your house, it's important to look into what's in the oil, because it can hurt dogs and babies. This is a fact someone told me. When I was little, I remember I had croup. And I remember my mom taking me in the shower and like doing all the steam. And then I remember her putting me to bed, and I had this, I don't know if you guys remember this. It was like a huge, you probably had one of these, a huge tan humidifier. It was this big, and on top of it was brown. And everyone had one in their house, and it was horrendous looking.
We didn't have that.
Yeah, you probably had like a new age one that your mom bought. Okay, we had the like
You're trying to say
ugly.
I'm spoiled?
Yeah,
I don't think we had it.
am trying to.
I don't think
Yours
we had
was
any of
encrusted in diamonds and gold. Mine was brown and tan, and it was lumbering and ugly. Anyways, why do you see so many people using humidifiers for stuff like croup or coughs or colds? Like, why does everyone always reach for the humidifier when that happens?
Yeah, because when we talk about like the health of your airway and your nasal passages and all of that, if you're dry and dehydrated and then they're cracked and fissured, or you may get nosebleeds, that's actually a very dangerous state for your mucous membranes. If you think about, like, the lungs are breathing in everything from the environment, and so they're kind of the first line of defense, in addition to our skin, of trying to keep bad stuff out. But if we're not optimized in that passage health, then we can get sick much more readily. And so that was the concept, to try to raise it to the ideal humidity level, so that those mucous membranes are healthiest and they protect you against everything we're breathing in. It's amazing we don't walk around sick more often. I mean, thinking about what all we put ourselves into. And then certainly in New York and LA and places that are more urban, I mean, pollution particles, all of that can like age us. It can accelerate, free radical damage and all kinds of things. So we really want to have that barrier optimized so that we stay well and healthy and
so
beautiful.
as I was like really dry and it was, we just couldn't figure out what it was. We took her to Austin. It cleared up in one day. And it was so crazy to see because I honestly think LA and the pollution, I think people, if you are going to live in a city that has all this shit in the air, you need to be having your home really be a sanctuary, especially now that we're in it all the time.
Agreed.
I mean, it's so important. You are a skin expert. We're speaking on skin with the humidifier. What are 3 skin tips that we can be doing in quarantine that are going to make a big difference?
Okay. One, I think that we need to make sure that we're adequately hydrated. Obviously, we're going into a little bit colder time, and barrier function is so important. You know, we talk about the microbiome and like the good organisms that are on the skin, and those functions of really keeping the skin junction, those cells tight. Like if you think of the model of the skin being a brick wall, the skin cells are the bricks, and the mortar is like ceramides and fatty acids, and they're really tight, and they keep as a fortress away from, bacteria, viruses, fungi, pollution, everything that can cause damage in the skin. And as we age, the ceramide levels drop significantly by like 46% by the time you hit 30. And so the mortar, that brick wall, is falling down. And that's why people develop sensitivities and rosacea and redness over time, because those junctions aren't quite as tight. And they may be more prone to superficial skin infections. So the more you can fortify that, the better. And there are some that I really like. A lot of hyaluronic acids are great. There's one by a company called Skin Better. It's called Trio. That's really lovely. And it helps to hydrate the skin and really strengthen the barrier. So that's one, make sure adequate hydration. 2, if you haven't started a retinol or a vitamin A derivative, this is the time. Like, we're at home, we're not interfacing with so many people. That induction period of peeling or redness and whatever, who cares? Like, let's push through it, because that is still kind of the gold standard for building collagen, elastin, really helping to stave off signs of aging and reverse signs of aging. It's never too late. Some people are like, oh, I'm already 45. Like, should I even bother? Yeah, absolutely you should. And so the things that always deterred people were like, well, I can't start it this week because I've got a big event or whatever. There was
With
always
retinol.
something. Yeah.
Because what? Because you get your skin will peel?
You don't have a retinol. You need to get one.
Well, that's
Or
what
do
I'm
you
asking.
have Dr. Dennis Gross?
Is it the brown one?
Yeah, he actually does
Yeah.
have a retinol.
I like
That's
it.
the key, and consistency with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a game changer for my skin.
I agree.
It really
You
is.
got your humidifier.
Do you know what's funny is
your
like
retinol.
for me, you would think that I would be. I'm actually maybe taking worse care of my skin in quarantine. Like as you're talking, I got to think about it, because it's just maybe because I'm at home and like I had a routine when I was going into this office all the time, and I was like, oh, that's the skin, and now I'm just like at home, so I forget to do it.
You need to get on it.
I'm starting
You
to-
used to have a 10-step
I'm starting
routine.
to go backwards. Huh?
Yeah, you're starting to go backwards. I got him Botox, which I think looks great. And he has his retinol, which he needs to use. And he has his humidifier by his bed. And you're drinking your fucking celery juice with cayenne in it.
I take care of it more than most men, I think,
Yeah.
but not as much as I probably should know.
What are some things men can do? Like if a woman's out there and she wants to manipulate her significant other into getting something, what's the procedure to get?
I have had a wonderful time recently. The FDA just approved Voluma, which is a dermal filler. It's hyaluronic acid. They just approved it in June for chin augmentation. And you can make a guy so much more attractive if you build out the chin in a way that nobody can tell. It's very subtle, but they're just like, you look great. And, we think about that. We're like, the insult that you would say is, oh, he has a weak jaw. That's not, for men, that is a very important quality that you have for being attractive. You want a strong jaw, right? These are things that we say. And it's not just like take one on the chin when someone hits you. Aesthetically, if it's more chiseled, they're more attractive. Think of all the leading men, or those who like groom it really tight if they do a little beard just to try to fake that it's like more of a distinct jawline. And that has been so much fun, but also one where guys are often, this is not very kind, but if they're straight, they're really worried that people are going to be like, oh, you went and did something. So they want to make sure it flies under the radar often. And I think also we need to let the guys celebrate their
Normalize
beauty. Yeah,
it.
it's
Who
okay.
cares? Let's get you a jaw. Let's get you a chin. Let's go in.
I'm down to do whatever I got to do
Yeah.
to hold myself together.
You
Yeah.
two are looking great, but
Okay.
it's always we all need help. And the reality is, like, if you were born with what's called a micrognathic or retrognathic, just means like small or more receding chin, then we should definitely do it. But over time, we also resorb bone, so the whole jaw is actually shrinking, and that's why if you think about like a little old lady, like their face is really small, and so things start to sag because the whole framework of the face is actually deteriorating. So, in my list of questions to ask God when I meet him, it's like, why do we lose collagen, elastin? You're taking our whole our bone structure away. Why do we have cellulite, varicose vein? You know, I have a long list.
I'm sure you have a long scroll to talk to him about. What are some things that you see women doing more of that are unique and niche?
Body is having a big moment for me. I mean, everyone's coming in and they really want to, like, you know, focus on their tear trough, things because we're wearing masks. But, you know, there have been, and you and I actually met about not the first time, but when we were both on an ad board for this new injectable that helps with cellulite. It's called Quo, and it'll come out in March. And I've just been able to use it first. I did it on myself. I'll show you later. But it is great because men don't have that. They don't have cellulite. 93% of women do. And, you know, it's for those dimples that you can't exercise away. It's just really the fibrous septae that are pulling on the skin and tethering it and making an indent. And so there's an injectable now that will be out, and it dissolves that collagen and lyses those bands so that you can release that. And it's amazing, the difference. The before and afters are great. And so there's all kinds of, dermatology is like one of the best specialties in the world, because if we don't have it now, in 6 months we probably will. Like, everything just keeps getting better, and we're discovering so many new ways to go after things that we don't like, that we want to change. And I don't ever feel guilty about, if we don't like something, do something about it if we can. You know, if you come to me and you're like, I don't like the size of my hand, we might have to live with that. Like, that's difficult to change. But if you don't, you know, if this dimple bothers you, or you don't wear yoga pants out because you feel like, you know, you have like little divots in your buns, these are great things that really change your happiness level. And so I have to hold people's hands who come in who are like, I shouldn't be doing this. You know, the world is ending. It's quarantine, you know. And I'm like, you absolutely should be doing this. This makes you a better person. You're going to be a better wife, mom, worker, everything, if you feel better about how you present.
Pretty soon, though, the robot arms are going to come in the future, and I'm going to have these really strong.
Yeah, you can get a robot girlfriend. You can cheat on me.
I'm
going to
have like one of those like retract,
You
like
go
the
for
arms
it.
that can, like, you know, like Inspector Gadget.
Yeah,
you can, like,
go
go across
Gadget.
the room.
Dendy
grab
will be
things.
back telling you about that.
Yeah. huge biceps. Like, just like press a button and be like.
I'm seeing that there is also a lot of filler happening. And my thing with filler is, I think it's great, but I noticed that a lot of people use too much, and it ages them.
It does.
And it gives you a pillow face.
Yep.
And this is something that I just think. I don't know if this is right. I just think that. Can you speak on that?
Absolutely. I combat that, like, media, you know, overdone face every day when people are doing their first visit and they're so worried that it's going to look done or too much. And so my aesthetic is always to be, I always say the best work is undetectable. That New York
is different than LA.
New York is different from LA. My LA girls will, like, schedule on the way out their next lip injection. I'm like, don't you want to see what it looks like at that point? They're like, it's like they're getting their nails done or their highlights. They're like, okay, I'll be back in however many months. But New York is a bit more subtle. One of the few things we're subtle about is kind of like not wanting people to know. And when we see filler that's been done, like, basically when you think someone's aging beautifully, they just have good work. No one has no work at this point that you're, like, looking up to. It's just that they have, like, undetectable work that's very subtle and tiny tweaks that help to combat the changes that occur over time. And aging truly starts to be apparent on the skin at 25 years old. So it's not old. And so the younger girls get it. They're all in. They're ready for whatever, you know, kind of keeping, what's it called? Holding them off of the path. What do you say? Heading them off of the path.
Like they're preventative.
Yeah.
About it.
So they want baby Botox. They want a little bit. The first sign of volume loss, they're really there to be injected. And sometimes I have to be like, wait, you know, we don't need this yet.
I think I got Botox when I was 21.
Okay. I was 27.
Yeah, and my 11.
Yeah. And
preventative.
it is. I mean, I'll be 44. And
Yeah, but Botox is different than, like, filler. I mean, not that I don't know the full difference, but I mean, it's
How so, Michael Boston?
because it's you. Can, I mean, it's like the thing when you got a little Botox, like, that was very minor, and that goes away after how long? Like
3 months.
yeah,
filler goes away too.
sure, but
Sorry, we interrupted you. Go on.
sorry.
No, you're fine. So yes, I really do like the preventative part, and I do think you can go overboard with filler. But what I always tell patients is like 1 syringe is 1/5 of a teaspoon. It's not a lot of volume. When we see people who have like the shelf or, kind of look like an Avatar or Maleficent with like the cheekbones that are just crazy and non-human, they have like 20 syringes in. It's a lot. Like you have to really be dedicated to overfilling. And I do find that if we start early, the more you do, the less you need. And so it's really nice to be able to like help people age beautifully and gracefully, but age appropriate too. If you're 50 and you want to look 18, like who are we kidding?
Yeah, I agree. I think too, I notice, and I talk about this a lot, like when someone has too much, when you just said, you called it the shelf, when they have too much filler in the eye, it squishes the eye up and it makes your eye look smaller.
It does.
And I also think you have to pay attention to trends, which is why the humidifier is so amazing, because that's not a trend. When you see something that someone has, I'll give an example, like Pamela Anderson back in the day had those huge bolt-on boobs, and now if you see those bolt-on boobs, you think, oh, that woman's like 40 or 50, because automatically our brain just knows that was when the trend of bolt-on boobs were popular.
I hadn't thought about it that way,
Yeah,
but
you're
that's
right.
But
true.
it's so crazy. It's going to happen with tattoos, right?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Like when he's 50, people are going to know he's 50 because tattoos were popular at our age. Even like the French manicure acrylic tip. Like if you see a woman that has that, you're like, oh, she's not. And maybe that's changing because the tip is kind of coming back. But like, like they're like 50.
Yeah.
So I think with even filler and Botox and plastic surgery and, the Brazilian butt lift, like you have to be careful that you're actually not putting yourself in this time machine where people know exactly how old you are by what kind of surgery you have.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like if you want to be trendy, go with fashion, but don't do it on your face. Like
Fashion Nova, Zara, but let's not go the face.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's true though, right? Like it's you have to be careful you're not going for a trend.
Yes, for sure. And like I see there's a lot of injectors on Instagram, like they're doing like really like crazy angle jaws with like 4 or 5 syringes like on each side, and they're super masculine. I mean, it's almost like a right angle, and that is actually not the feminine aesthetic. And so what's gonna happen? These girls are like 25, and then it's gonna look not great as we get older. The other thing that happens if you do too much at a young age is you actually lose the appearance of being young. You're kind of age androgynous, but you don't. And you can edit this out if you need to.
You
but
can
like,
keep it.
like
I'll tell you.
Kylie Jenner,
Yeah,
she
doesn't
looks
look like a young girl.
35. She doesn't look like she's in her 20s. She looks great, but it's like, what's that going to look like at 35? The reason I think we're doing this is to preserve more youthful appearance, but sometimes it can definitely age you.
I agree. I know what you're saying. Like and that's an interesting word, age how did you say it?
Androgynous.
So you don't know kind of how
Yeah,
old someone
you're kind
is.
of
No, but
like,
we
you
get in
don't even know where to
trouble.
bucket them in a
Yeah.
decade.
It's like, is that person 50 or 25? They
Right.
could be either, and I'd believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get in trouble now because and I won't name names, but we have friends and acquaintances that do exactly what you're talking about, and like I'll meet them through Lauryn and I'll think they're like 30, 35-year-old women, and they're like 20, 22, 23, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just not what I remember 22, 23-year-olds looking like.
Yeah.
And you really like have to be careful not to be like, oh wow, I thought you were so much older than that.
Yeah, because it's like, what does that mean?
And that conversation I have to have a lot with the young 20s when they're begging for like a lot of things they don't need. And I'm like, we got to back it up to like skincare. What are we doing? We can maybe do some lasers for like acne scarring. We can do some things, and I'm not saying never. I'm just saying not right now, because the one thing I cannot inject into you is your actual youth.
That's true. And I think that we're all, and I'm putting myself in this category, fucked up in the way where we see social media and you think, oh, this is like real. And then the person looks different in person.
They look so different.
And I think, I love a good filter. Like we all use filters, but you also have to like remind yourself.
Yeah. That it's not reality.
This is through a filtered lens.
I had a very bright, like highly successful New Yorker who came to me and they were like, why is she so perfect? And I was like, do you know how many filters she's been in? And we have the benefit of seeing these people in person. And sometimes you almost are unrecognizable. But, if you're in Iowa and you don't live near any celebrities or don't have access to them, you just believe that that's what you look like at 60 or, and that's not the case. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors, even in like what you do with makeup and lighting and all kinds of stuff.
I'm reading this book. This is a tangent, but it's like it takes place in 900 AD, and in the book there's this woman and she's getting married, and there's no mirrors. There's nothing to look like. The only way she sees herself is she like catches a reflection.
What would you do with no mirrors?
But that my point is like this is how people
Sounds
people
terrible.
didn't evolve to see themselves as often as we see
true.
ourselves. I mean, we see ourselves now on Zoom, on our phone, in our mirrors. Like every second, you're inundated with how you look all the time. It's again, I always go back to this on the show. It's not how humans evolved. Like we weren't meant to look at ourselves as often as we do.
Think about what that's done to our brains.
You're judging
Yeah.
every little thing, and especially now with Zoom and social, you're looking at every single angle. Like I found myself the other day, I was like, what's this thing here? And I was like, I would have never seen that on the side of my head, you know.
What is the thing?
No, it was probably nothing. It was just like I was noticing,
Let
like,
me
what the
look.
hell? It was like a line or something.
There's a line.
But like we're sitting there and we're
You need more
constantly
retinol.
not only
Dendy.
analyzing our own
Beijing Dr.
faces,
D.
but we're analyzing everybody else's consistently,
Yeah,
constantly.
the other day Michael goes, "Oh, about like her skin needs work." I'm like, "How do you even know about skin?"
Well, the problem is we do all these conversations now, so things I never even saw or looked at before I noticed. But I think like if you're doing that now constantly with the phone, and if you're, you know,
It's never enough is the problem. Like you're
That
always
is
going to
the
find
problem.
someone prettier or like had a better filter or better angle. It's super interesting, and we won't know the psychological aspects until later, but for the young like adolescents who've had to pivot to at home Zoom school, and then all of a sudden they're juxtaposed next to the prettiest girl in school, you know, and then it really, you don't have to see yourself in class, right? You're looking at the teacher and maybe you see that the pretty girl is wearing whatever and she looks nice that day, but you're not literally side by side with your own image. And they've done studies to show, it used to be with like 17 magazine and things, like the girls who are of a certain age, their self-esteem really dropped after looking at these beautiful airbrushed pictures of other girls who are considered beautiful. And so it makes me sad, and I have a little 2-year-old girl. I want to make sure that she always, you know, she'll put on her princess dress and goes in the mirror and goes, "I'm so beautiful." And
I love it.
that,
Yeah.
and I want her to always think that. And so we have to be careful, and I'm certainly also in that. You know, I can succumb to it. We're not immune because we know it happens, but it is good just to be aware.
And
And
you and I
13
are also in the business of, I think about that a lot. God, I have a daughter and I'm in this business where it's like, it's a big part of it is the way you look. So I really always want to be cognitive about that and thinking about that and like, what's the way that you talk to your daughter? Because it's a daughter. A daughter is very different
It
to me
is.
than a son. Having that conversation.
it won't be a problem for you though, because in 13 years we're going to become Amish. We're going to go live,
Well,
live in the middle of
13
nowhere.
years exactly.
Yeah,
That's
13
very
Right when
specific.
she hits 13 years, we're going to go become Amish.
We're
gonna
gonna be Amish.
We're going to live out. The closest neighbor is going to be 80 miles away.
There'll be no mirrors.
We're going to have no mirrors, no
You're
technology.
gonna churn butter,
Churn
darn
butter.
socks.
I love churning butter. I'll churn some
I'm
butter.
just gonna drive a plow every day, and our daughter will meet somebody 30 years from then.
It is really crazy though with Instagram, like all the different things that you see on there. As someone that's a doctor, and when you see all these doctors injecting all this stuff.
Yeah. I don't ever get upset with the patients. I do get upset with the providers, even if they've injected somebody poorly. You know, people come and they trust us to have a certain level. And then there are also those who are just blindly accepting of, if you have a doctor in front of your name, you must be omnipotent and be able to do all things. And so there are ER doctors who are doing Botox, and there are OBGYNs who are doing filler because, you know, in their defense, it's cash based and medicine doesn't pay what it used to, and it's tough. You've got $200,000 of loans from schooling yourself. And so they, often get into trouble. And so it makes me upset when they're bragging. They're like, liquid nose job, and it's clearly not that. And you can tell that someone had surgery. And it's, I think faking before and afters is so inauthentic, and it really makes it much harder for those of us who are trying to be transparent and real about expectations, because that's really tough when someone comes in and they're like, I saw this, and you're like, that's a bunch of other things than what they claimed they did. And so I think people just need to be wary of what they see online, also with in general, Dr. Google will take you down a rabbit hole that, everyone comes in, they're like, I have lymphoma, they're just have gone Googling their symptoms. And you want to pair with someone who you trust, who you like their aesthetic, and who y'all are on the same page as to what the outcomes are. There are certainly people who want super crazy lips, and that's not my thing. And so I will send them on, because I don't want them running around town being like, oh, Dendy's my dermatologist, and look what she did.
It's advertising.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the best advice my friend ever gave me was when I was 19. He said, he said this to a group of girls. It wasn't just me. You have to find something other to lead with than your looks.
It's a great piece of advice.
And I just I thought that was so smart because, and I would give that advice to everyone. Like, you can't be so caught up in your looks where that's all you're leading with. There has to, are you funny? Are you smart? Are you talented? Are you well read? Like, what do you bring to the table other than the way you look? Because the looks goes.
I think on the flip side of some of the downsides of social media that you were talking about, Lauryn, so many filters and it's so easy, Dendy, you said, to be inauthentic, is that I think people also gravitate to people on social media because they're witty. I think that there's you don't want to follow an account where somebody doesn't have anything witty or some real value to add. So I think that's another interesting thing about social media is that it's these natural creators, people who just are naturals at putting great wit and thoughts out there, and so and in such a specific medium and these sort of short form and just sound bites. So I think that's something that is a little bit of an equalizer for social media, at least as far as I see it, that you do have to have some wit and bring some value to somebody in order to be, at least for me, to be somebody who I'm going to keep following, really appreciate what they're saying and listen to them.
From a marketing standpoint, what are you looking for in an influencer besides wit when you look to work with someone with Canopy?
Yeah, I think it's really important that people understand what Canopy is all about. Of course, it has the skin benefits, but basically what we've tried to do here is we've tried to make a device that you put in your home that makes you feel more well and that makes your home more of a place for wellness and then sort of by proxy for beauty and skincare. So I think it has to be somebody who understands that, who really became an influencer or became a content creator because they cared about being healthy and about being well. I think that's really, really important. And I think also somebody, what's great about this product is that, we talked about all the different benefits and the different reasons why people would use it. So there are a lot of different ways that people can get into it. It could be because you have houseplants that you really want to care for, and that's why you're running your humidifier.
It cares for houseplants.
It helps your houseplants, yeah.
So it just, what do you mean? It's like a jungle?
So basically, right. So if you think about the rainforest and how plants, survive and thrive in the rainforest, I mean, Canopy is not going to make your house like a rainforest. It's going to put your house at optimal humidity. But plants, most plants need moisture. Few don't, like plants that flower in the desert or whatever, but most plants need moisture and it's going to help the plants too. So it could be somebody who does houseplants as their content. It could be a lot of moms, a lot of new moms and moms, people who are more nutrition oriented. But I think it's really somebody who understands what we wanted to do and how we want people to experience this product, which is as a device for wellness, and also people who really truly have the lifestyle that makes sense for this. We made it super easy so you don't have to think about it. So people who are naturally really busy, have a lot going on, I think that makes sense too. And also people who are game to do kind of out of the box stuff with us. We really don't want to do anything that's just one and done and and something that doesn't really build a meaningful connection together. We think of the influencers that we work with as extensions of our team and of our family, and I think people who want to do cool creative things to grow awareness for this product and get people excited about it, I think that's what we think about.
How did you guys decide to work together on this? Why was there synergy?
With Dendy, you mean?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I could go on and on.
I mean,
but
her skin's glowing. She looks amazing. I can't believe you have 2 kids. You look so good. I'm going to come to your office in New York and I'll just lay there and I'll take a Xanax and just lay there and you can just do whatever you want.
Perfect.
But why did you guys decide besides the obvious?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to make you blush, Dendy, but in addition to everything that Dendy just talked about with all of the cosmetic procedures, she's removing people's cancers. When you talk about wellness and thinking about health from a holistic perspective, she's got it all. She understands the skin, and she understands really, really health and how all of that ties together. Also, Dendy is a mom. I think you're within our target consumer group, really. This is a product that, that really works for you. And also just, somebody who was really going to be very honest with us about, as we were developing the product and putting together the features, we talked to Dendy and she was really honest with us and asked us a lot of questions about why we were doing certain things so that
we went through so many studies and, you have to vet the science because you can basically find a study out there to prove any kind of I mean, it won't be a well done study, but it can prove all kinds of theories. So we have been working for a long time to make sure that these claims were proper and real and based in science. And so it's fun that whatever the impetus is for people to use Canopy, like if they don't want their family to get sick, that's a great reason. And then you get the happy benefit of having better skin and scalp and hair. Awesome. If you are going straight vanity and you don't get sick, great. Like, I don't care how you get to it, just get to it and you're going to get all the other benefits. Which
My
is great.
dog has dander.
Okay.
Does it help?
Yeah, it should help.
There's not really, I mean, like, listen, unless I've missed it, there's not really a downside to implementing this into your home.
Not at
There's
all.
There's only benefits.
No, because some humidifiers, people are like, oh, that's going to make my walls, my floors all wet, and like there's going to be moisture.
Yeah.
You don't get that with this. So there is no downside.
There's nothing worse than a dewy wall.
That's why I threw away that one that you had, because it was putting water everywhere.
Yeah. They
Which
can be
one
quite
did you
crazy.
throw away?
That ugly, huge thing that was next to your bed, and it was getting my lamps all messed up. It was a whole thing.
No. We're doing this because this is a 2-in-1 with the essential oil.
Yes, that's good.
So I would love to know more about skin cancer.
Okay.
I think that since you're here and this is one of your expertise, can you speak on skin cancer a little bit? Are you seeing it less or more?
We are seeing more, but we're seeing the death rates from like melanoma and those, because that's the number one killer of young people aside from accidents, is melanoma, skin cancer. And thankfully, I mean, I certainly grew up when people would go tanning all the time. I think that there are certain habits that have definitely fallen by the wayside. But interestingly, there's an article now that says that working from home has actually increased people's sun exposure because they're like taking a call from the park or they're doing their workouts outside. And it's not really that you're working from home, you're just not in an office. And so people were getting a lot more incidental sun exposure, taking their Zooms on their deck, and so we want to be able to protect our skin every day, and that's the concept that people in this country often don't do, is like daily sun protection, whether it's January or June, 365. And then we think about the other things that we're, the toxic avengers, like the pollution, that really can age you. It can hyperpigment your skin. People who live in like heavily polluted areas
I want to move.
can hyperpigment your skin by 20%.
Well, you're moving to Amish country
Yeah.
in 13 years,
You
so
will be
you can
perfect.
look forward to
Don't
that.
worry, Lauren.
Pollution free. And then blue light and infrared and all of the other things that we're inundated because we're on all of our devices all the time. It's just great to be protected, just like you use daily antioxidants, daily sunscreen. And that's one of the keys to not aging. It's not sexy. Everyone's like, yeah, I know SPF. And they want to go to something like more aggressive, like inactive, like vitamin A that I talked about. But really, I'm from down south, and Mama always used to say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And it's like, just if you put that in your daily routine, and that doesn't mean like I have color, but it's all like self-tan. And so you can look it, you just don't want natural sun. And that's hard, I know, in California where it's so beautiful and sunny all the time. But it's really important. And also, again, I don't care where you come from. If it's from vanity that you don't want to look old and then you've been wearing sunscreen, then you're not going to get skin cancer. So I think that they work in tandem for overall skin health, and healthier skin happens to look better. But I do encourage people. I have a lot of patients who come just for their Botox every 3 months. And I'm like, when's the last time you had a skin exam? They're like, oh, it's been a while. So just make sure annually you're getting your skin checked from a licensed and trained professional. And then anything that's new, bleeding, changing, growing, just get it checked out.
Will you look at the mole on my neck right now? Someone told me to have it looked at.
Yes, of course.
Like live right now.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, let's see.
I'm gonna have to get it. Right, let me move your hair. It's totally fine.
How do you know if it's fine?
How do you know it's fine across the table?
Well, I mean, afterwards I'll go even closer, but it looks totally fine. It's like well circumscribed. The borders are clear.
Okay.
It's uniform in color. We call it the ABCDEs. So these are the things that are to look out for. If you have a lesion that's A, asymmetrical, B, irregularly bordered, C, color, has multiple colors, it's not uniform, D, diameter, usually anything over 6 millimeters we think about at least examining, and that 6 millimeters is like the eraser end of a pencil. And then the last one is the most important. It's E, for evolving or changing. And so, if something grows rapidly, starts bleeding, it just is symptomatic. It doesn't mean that it's a skin cancer, but it just means you need to get a second set of eyes on it, just so we can rule that out. And people are like terrified of getting their skin examined, and then they finish and they're like, that was easy. It's not often a bad experience. and even if you have to get a biopsy, it's like 2 seconds and it's not that painful. So it's just better to be safe than sorry. And I think that anybody who has a non-healing lesion that is longer than 2 to 3 weeks should be checked out. I have patients who will be like, I'm like, how long's that been there? They're like, I don't know, a couple years.
My doctor has a good friend. You might know I don't want to say his name because it ends in a sad story, but he was actually either a dermatologist or a skin cancer doctor, maybe a combination of both. And so he looked at this stuff for a living all the time and knew what to look at. And he ended up dying from melanoma because it was on the back of his ear. And I think a lot of people don't look there. And one day he turned his ear around his ear and it was too far gone. It's a super sad story, but if anybody's looking, like maybe even checking behind.
And for men, it's like scalp, nose, bottom lip, ears, like places.
Do we have to look at like butthole and penis?
Calm down.
I'm actually being
Check
serious.
regularly,
Do you
Lauryn.
have to look at everything?
Hopefully that's not getting too much sun exposure.
And now we're going to do that live.
I actually put my butthole.
Yeah, I actually have something. I need everybody to check something.
Because I read in Australia that it's really good for your butthole to get sun. I actually read a whole study on this. That
Lauryn,
it's actually really energizing for you to lay.
A lot of the energy healers do believe that.
Lauren, if I catch
See,
you
can you tell him I'm not crazy? I literally
this is
bent
so
up.
new to me.
I want everyone here on the show to understand. If I catch you on our deck with your
That's
ass in
not
the
what I
air
do. When
doing this,
I have a
I'm
Juve,
serving you papers.
I have a
We're out.
Juve. I turn on my humidifier with my essential oils going, and I have a Juve, a huge Juve, and I bend over in doggy style. I don't know how you haven't caught me. Like for like 2 minutes when I Juve.
Taylor, call my lawyer. Get the papers ready.
It's supposed to be good for you to get light in there.
People do say that, but
Alright.
I think
So
we
wait,
should
do
have
you
a
feel
PSA.
a difference then? So have you felt a difference
Yes,
because of
I
it?
swear to God, because think about it. It's a place that never, ever, ever gets any sun.
Sun don't shine.
Yeah.
I told you we were going to get to know each other pretty well on this.
Like you need to tan your ball sack.
I'm going to have to take a chance and say that I can't have you walking in on that from me. Like that could hurt our marriage.
Do you like the red light for skin?
Yeah, I love LEDs. I think they're great. In Europe, they use them often for anti-aging perspective, but in the U.S., we often think about for acne, people who have inflammatory acne or just persistent recalcitrant acne that's hard to treat. The blue light is really good. That kills the bacteria at the base of the follicle that's contributing to the acne. And then the red is good for anti-inflammatory components. And we think about, like, as we age, there's this concept of chronic, we call it inflammaging, where you always have inflammatory response in the skin, and that actually accelerates the signs of aging. It can degrade collagen. So if you're doing a daily light treatment, which is super easy, it's actually helping to calm that down. And then, of course, in disease states like rosacea and people who have sensitivities and eczema, it's really therapeutic.
Yeah, with COVID, we've been doing. I mean, we have this. It's a huge one. It's like a full body. We've been doing it every single day. It helps a lot, especially when you're indoors.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So
I want to come over to y'all's house. We'll talk about all kinds of fun things.
yeah, you're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
But honestly, like.
Just make sure you knock
right
and,
now
and
during
Yeah, I was gonna say,
quarantine, our
while
house
you're
right
doing
now
your
during
Juve.
no, our house right now. Yeah, you don't want to come over with my butthole bent up in the air. I really do that. I think you're like laughing and joking around, but it actually does give me energy. So don't, DBJ. If like to leave this episode with, if someone wants to read up more on humidifiers and like really get into it, I've been wanting to do a podcast. And like I said, I have tons of posts on the blog about a humidifier because it's such a niche subject that people don't think about, but that makes a big difference. If someone wants to go read up on it, on all the benefits, obviously you can go to the Skinny Confidential. But where else can they go?
Well, yeah, I mean, not even to just like plug Canopy, but we have worked really hard to build up blog content on our site, and every week we're launching more, and all of it is related to humidifiers and the benefits. So there's actually quite a bit of content there. But I would have otherwise said this Skinny Confidential because you talk about it a lot. Dendy, where else do you think?
I mean, I feel like y'all have done such a good job of because we did such a deep dive into the literature to really have scientific claims that truly are vetted to help educate people, because it's not a huge leap to know that humidity in your environment is better for your skin and health, but it is important to know what the differences are, and like the things that will keep you from using it are all the traditional humidifiers. And now we have one that is like solved for all the reasons you didn't. So those are the two that I would go to first, because that was the problem when we first started. There wasn't like a condensed site where you were just cherry picking all these like studies from all over the world trying to support what we know is skin and wellness health, but it's not just one source.
Right. And what you will find if you do a little bit of research is that actually for a long time now, derms and then the different beauty publications, right? Birdie and Refinery, they're doing stories about how humidifiers help
It's
for
everywhere.
skin. But we call it healthy skin's best kept secret, because what I found again when I was doing my interviews with people about humidifiers was there was a small percentage of people like you, Lauryn, who really understand the skin benefits and use it for skin, among other things. But we want more people to know that. We want more people to know that like this is a beauty tool, and there's so much like movement toward I want to know the ingredients in my skincare. I want to know what's going on my skin. This is so simple. This is hydrated air. You talk about clean beauty, like this is the cleanest that there is. We run the water through a filter, and then the hydration comes out into the air for you. It's the cleanest beauty thing you can do.
Yeah, I agree. And it is part of the beauty ritual that now I look forward to, which is such a change from when we used to fight over who was going to clean it. It has like a nice little like kind of purr, like white noise, and then if you put the diffuser, like I really like I like using it, where before I'd be like, I hate that fucking humidifier. And Devin would be like, have you filled up his humidifier? And I was like, oh, I forgot, because I really didn't want to do it. I deliberately would like put my little baby's skin at risk because I didn't want to deal with the humidifier. I was tired. So you don't need one more chore at the end of the day.
And if you guys are wondering, the color I got white for my house, and then I got pink for my office, but it also comes in green, which is like a seafoam pastel green, and then a baby blue. And it is very, very cool how there's no visible mist or steam, like they said. And then I wash mine in the dishwasher with organic dishwasher soap. So it's very easy and quick. What's next, and where can everyone find both of you guys on Instagram and online?
Yeah, so what's next for Canopy is that we know people love aromas and we love them, and we want to keep doing really cool things with this aroma feature. So for holiday, everyone will be finding out really soon. We did a really cool aroma thing that's inspired by the places you won't be traveling this year for holiday. Like, we're used to going and looking forward to our vacations, and I don't think many people will be doing that this year. So the scents are going to take you there. It's going to be like a vacation for your mind. So we're doing that. And then as time goes on, we're going to roll out limited edition aroma partnerships we've got a ton of cool brands in the pipeline to work with. So that's gonna be just coming for Canopy. And it's at get.canopy on Instagram. Follow.
And what is your Instagram?
My Instagram is Dr. Dendy, Dendy, and I am at Schaefer Clinic, 5th Avenue in the city if you ever want to come see me.
I will be there.
You have to.
Just do whatever you want. Thank you both for coming on. That was such an informative episode. I feel like we learned all about humidifiers, skin cancer, fillers, Instagram filters, the works. Thank you. Come back anytime.
Thank you.
Thanks.